Excuse me, ever since I came to your shop for a new engine, my tyres have been flat. What's up guys, welcome back to the GU build. Didn't film too much in depth about getting the ZD out of this thing, just did a little bit of time lapse there, hope you've enjoyed that, but there's really not a lot to tell. It's pretty standard. It's not worth wasting the time on the footage and the content of getting it out. It is what it is. Just got to pull the engine out. So anyway, we've been busting ass to get this thing happening, and we've got the ZD out, as you can see, which is step, I don't know, we'd call that step bloody 5 of 600 or something like that. Anyway, basically what you can see is that it's well underway. The ZD has been removed and we're ready to start getting this area ready to receive our LS. So probably be about a good day of just getting things ready to accept the LS, getting rid of what we know we don't need, communicating with Sam, who will be doing the wiring, about what he wants, where he wants it, and this, that, and the other, and getting that ready to go. And, you know, changing over our bell housing to accept our new clutch and adapter and stuff like that, and changing over the clutch master. They send, the adapter kit sends a new master and a new slave. Pretty much it's time to start getting that sorted. We had to let all the air out of the tyres to get the engine over the front. She's a bit high, this thing, with no engine in it, but that's not a problem, and that's all sorted. So one thing done, out of the way. Anyway guys, busted ass to get that done because that's all I've got time for today. I've got to head home and look after my young fella because the missus is going to tutor one of the local kids. So step one, and we'll keep on cracking on. We'll tune in a minute. All right guys, back here this morning. It's actually the missus' birthday today, so I'm pretty much about to head home, about to shoot off. I came and managed to do a little bit this morning, but gonna go home and spend the day with her and the little fella. Anyway, while I do that, Rex is gonna work on cleaning up this engine bay. So we've sort of cleaned up best we can, blocked up everything we need to block up, and Rex is gonna give this a really good clean up because as you can see.
Clean it up. No, by the time you get back to Savo, mate, it'll be done.
Oh, you reckon?
Yeah, finished.
LS in, ready to go.
Running, ready to hit the dyno.
So yeah, basically give it a good clean. As you can see, general four-wheel drive stuff, they usually are just cruddy, just usually driven on dirt roads, off-road, years old. It's just is what it is. So it's always nice to give them a nice big clean up so that you're working with a nice start of a little platform. So once that's all cleaned up, we can start looking at getting our bell housing and everything else up and going forward with the conversion. But for now, that's the plan. Anyway, I'm gonna go. So we'll tune back in a bit later on. All right guys, we're back here this morning. Today's meant to be the big day, try and get this thing pretty much done today. I've running on about 2 hours sleep because the young fella kept me up all night, so it's gonna be a bit of a hard slog. But anyway, Rex spent all yesterday afternoon, busy as. I know it probably doesn't look like much, but he has actually gotten through a lot of the most time consuming processes of doing a conversion and doing the initial groundwork for everything. So he actually dummy fit the engine yesterday, so that he could mark and drill the mounts and sort of grind out where we had to grind out. I'll get him to go through that with you a bit later on so that you have some detail on what actually is required to do all that, and actually dummy fit the engine, which allowed us to sort of see what sort of issues we were going to come across in doing this, which means today we can obviously sort those things out, and this afternoon we should be able to get this engine in for the final install. So as you can see, he's removed our old bell housing so that we're ready to install our new one. He's cleaned this up as best as he could with the gurney. Also cleaned up underneath around the fuel tank area because we're going to have to obviously sort that out, which I'll go through with yous a little bit more a bit later in the day. So at the moment we're just going through the processes of moving this front brake line. It has to be rerouted because it's in the way, which I'll show you a bit later on. While the engine's still out, we're going to sort out our power steering line and a few other little things and nits and bobs, and going to remove our vacuum canister and everything else that we don't need from up here, and pretty much get the engine bay, you know, ready to actually finally install our engine. So let's get it. So first things first is this front brake line. So it actually fails on the air conditioning setup on the LS. Which we'll go through a little bit more in depth a bit later on. But for now, we are looking to just re-bend, re-terminate, re-flare, and move it back. So yeah, that's where it was down there.
And the compressor just hits it. So
straight up hits it, definitely in the way. So relocate that. We're just looking at how much we've got on the rubber line, on where we can actually mount the end of the hard line, and how short we can cut it back. So we've lifted the car up off the hoist so that the diff is at full drop. so that we know sort of what we're working with. Obviously we can just buy an extended line if we have to, and if we have to we will do that. So when converting the ZD, you don't actually have to weld mounts on like we had to with the GQ, but the stock mounts do need to be re-drilled for the new rubber mounts, which Rex did yesterday. So you can see he's drilled a hole, and he's also had to grind out a little bit of the back of that mount to fit the new rubber mount. And on this side, he decided to, instead of grinding out the mount, he actually ground out the actual rubber mount there.
Yeah, which I regret doing now, but anyway.
You reckon you would have been better off grinding out the chassis mount?
It's 6.5 really.
6.5. Alright, so here's our new bell housing. So this just bolts directly to the gearbox and is to suit our new clutch and flywheel and slave, which is all also produced by Marks and supplied by Marks adapters. So like I said guys, we almost exclusively use Marks four-wheel drive for our conversions at this point. They are a little bit more expensive than a lot of other stuff on the market, but the fitment compared to a lot of other stuff on the market is just above and beyond. The amount of time you save by using products that actually fit and just bolt up and everything works is astounding. So we're really impressed with them. We really like them. We think they're worth the extra money. That's why we use them. Yeah, this thing is good. Rex had it dummy fitted yesterday. He pulled it back off, but so we had to pull it off because Marks actually supplies a heat shield, which we didn't know about this. So this heat shield is actually to go over all of the fuel lines that come up this chassis rail and protect them from the exhaust, which is awesome. So I didn't know they did this. We didn't have one of these for the GQ. So I don't know if this is just a GU thing. Don't know what the go is. But either way, Rex had to remove the bell housing again so we can actually get into there to actually make some threads so that this can bolt up to the chassis rail. So that's got to go on as well. So the other thing that Rex found on his dummy fit was the actual stud on the AC compressor that would normally hold your manifold on, that one there, actually fails on the chassis rail. So although this AC relocation kit that moves it closer to the block obviously works, it's still very, very, very tight. So they actually supply a like a bolt with the new manifold kit that comes from Marks with their AC lines, and it is designed so that you pull that stud out and use a bolt instead. So we've got to pull that out. But that's definitely something. But apart from that, this is our engine. I don't think you've seen it since it was all completely together with manifold and everything on it. So it's all looking great. These are our new mounts. They're installed, ready to go. So yeah, it's a pretty not overly complicated setup. Just a lot of little nitty things that take up a lot of time. So in here we have some of the other final sort of parts of the conversion that we did get from Marks as well. This is the new manifold that I was talking about, which suits the AC relocation and keeps everything nice and tight out of the way. And also just bought the AC lines, which I talked about already. We also went for the Marks Adapters power steering line as well. That's nice and simple. That's a really good one. Really happy with that last time. So we also got the tacho adapter to adapt the tachometer in the dash to work. Obviously with this conversion, because we're sticking with the factory gearbox, the factory speedo should work, and then as I showed you when we did the engine, with the adapters for the head and for the oil pressure, we should be able to get the temperature and oil pressure in the dash to work as well, and everything else should work as factory. So that's a little plate for the bell housing. That's our flywheel and our new slave clutch line, and we do have a new master as well. So it's a whole new clutch setup, which is awesome. So that's all brand new stuff. And that's essentially it as far as the conversion gear from Marks. So for this particular conversion, we opted out of the viscous fan setup because the owner is not particularly into four-wheel driving. You know, it's more of just like a touring setup and the occasional towing sort of stuff. It's not one of those things he's planning on going water crossings and all that sort of thing. And because we had an entire donor, we've got that good set of VX thermo fans as well, which we've always had really good results. You know, we've always been really happy with the performance of just Commodore thermos and things like that. They draw a heap of air. So in order to save a fair bit of cost going that way, we decided we would adapt the thermo fans to the GU radiator instead of going to the viscous fan hub setup from Marks, because that is quite an expensive way to go. The other thing that we didn't get from Marks is the heater hoses and rad hose kit. You can also buy that as a kit from Marks as well, and it just bolts straight in. But we've sort of got a few tricks up our sleeve for that one, so we didn't go for that. But apart from that, everything else is just Marks stuff, and it's really good gear. Alright guys, getting some progress happening. So just completely removed the hard lines that were being used for vacuum over there because of where the vacuum sort of port is on the LS for those things. And we now have an engine that creates vacuum. We didn't need the canister. We didn't need those hard lines. Marks Adapters supplies a new line with a new slave and new master for the clutch. So didn't need the hard line for the clutch that went down here as well. So managed to delete a lot of the things off the firewall here, which is awesome. Managed to repurpose these clips for the cables for the dual battery setup. Which keeps that nice and neat and tidy. We've got our new high pressure line installed on the pump there, and we've installed all the AC, we've removed all the AC lines that we needed to remove, and it's all cracking along. All right, I've been sorting out these fans. It's crazy how much bigger GU radiators are. GU radiators are just so freaking huge. It's awesome. It's so good. So I'll seal around them fans so that they only draw through the radiator where they are, and that should be plenty as far as thermos go. Plus you got all this other area while you're actually drying and wind's moving. Driving and wind's moving is great. So made out some mounts for those, some little tech decks. Woo! Just painting them up at the moment. Then we can mount the fans up because we obviously need those mounted before wiring because they're part of the wiring. They have to be wired in. And Rex has sorted out the fuel lines and brake lines that were on the other side there and put that heat shield on.
It's a dog of a job.
He did not have much fun doing so. It was not nice.
You gotta move all of them, you gotta move all of those, it's fucked.
So they now bend further back down and run along the top of the chassis rail up there instead of where they used to come up the side here and bend up sort of there.
Yeah.
So they're moved out of the way. So we're just chucking the bell housing on at the moment. This is just another dummy fit. We're gonna dummy fit the engine again because we haven't moved all these breathers yet because we want to see how the engine sits now that you know, the actual holes are drilled for the mounts, now that all those other lines are moved and everything, and actually see if we have to move this stuff or not. So do one more dummy fit and go off that and then pretty much start doing all the final prep. So we'll get the stud out of this AC compressor first before we do this. Oh, I just love that. Everything you put ALSs in, they just look like they're meant to be there. They always just look like they're right at home. Anyway, you can see how this all fits. We've got this pipe in with this engine in, and it looks like these breathers can stay exactly where they are. That's fine. You know, they're hard lines up there. They're not soft lines until right there where my finger is pointing. That's where they go to soft line. So the actual hard line is the only thing close to the pipes, and that's fine. And they're only a breather anyway. They're not actually fluid, so there's nothing wrong with that the way they are. So they can stay there. That's awesome. Might just have to make a little heat shield just to protect the soft lines. We'll do something with those, but as far as we're concerned, that can stay. As you can see, with the alternator on these things, it is quite a tight fit. You know, it is tight with the alternator down there. All right, both side pipes in. We've got clearance. Looking good. Alright, so you can see that's where our brake line mount was relocated to, just in front of the engine mount there. It's all Rex re-terminated, that's all sweet. It's all well and good. You can see under here how everything's going. We are going to move this heat shield just a little bit because we did have some issues with getting that pipe in, and we can actually afford to move that heat shield down just a little bit to get it out of the way a little bit more. So this is why it's always good to dummy fit a few times and get your head around exactly what you're gonna do for your final install. But yeah, you can see from under here how all that's going. Not sure if I mentioned as well already, but the water pump that we put on this engine, as you guys know, we put a different water pump on it because the other one was fairly corroded. We put a 71-degree thermostat in it, so that's one of the big things when you're doing an LS in a four-wheel drive. They come factory with an 86-degree thermostat, which they're designed to run from factory at about 100 to 110 degrees Celsius. They run hot. They're designed to run hot for efficiency and emissions and things like that. There's no real reason for them to have to run that hot, and you do find in four-wheel drives, once you start lugging around some weight or you're on the trails with that sort of thermostat in it, you do find these things get too hot. So you whack a 71-degree thermostat in them, bang on, always sitting around that 86, 88 degrees we found, and they're always awesome. So we've gone ahead and done that. I don't know if couldn't remember if I told you that or not yet already. But anyway, there you know. So that's pretty much what we're working with, and it's all coming together pretty well. All right, we're into making moves to get this thing in for the final time. We've got our fans all mounted up. They all mounted really well. Got some pinch weld along the bottom and top where it sits against the radiator, and then some high density foam to actually seal them onto the radiator so that they're actually sealed and draw air through the radiator, and they should work really well. We've had really good, these fans. They pull a heap of air. So they're all mounted up on the radiator, ready to go. Rex is just sorting out our new pilot bearing at the moment. So this all comes from Mark's adapters with the kit. All the instructions are fairly clear. It's all pretty easy. Our bear housing has been installed for the final time. Rex has installed our new clutch master and our new clutch line to go to our new concentric slave, as you can see there, which is all bloody beautiful. So he's gravity bled that as best he can. It comes with very specific instructions for bleeding this. So again, with the Mark stuff, it's all pretty simple. It's all pretty easy to work with, and all the instructions are really clear. So anyway, they say in the instructions to try and stay away from pressure bleeding, so we've just gravity bled that, and hopefully we're hoping that's pretty much ready to go as it is. So we'll see how it goes once we get it in the car. But so they've got this plate. It's like an RB. This plate goes on before the flywheel. I'm assuming it's just a matter of trying to seal up the bell housing as best they can for, you know, an off-road vehicle. Off-roader, so got to remember to put that on before the flywheel. Don't make that mistake, guys. It's a painful one. Just like that. Lovely. Alright guys, so we were going hard. We were thinking about just trying to get this thing smashed in there this afternoon. As you can see, it's starting to get fairly late. One thing we still have yet to sort out is a solution for the throttle cable. So, you know, the ZD30 has like an electronic actuator on the pump, I suppose you'd say, almost like fly-by-wire, but for diesel land, there's no throttle body, obviously, so I don't know how you'd explain it, but basically there's no throttle cable that comes through the firewall, so there is no ready cable just to swack on this thing, so we do have to actually come up with a solution for a throttle cable. So to do that, we're pretty sure we're going to have to pull the actual brake booster and master and everything out from the firewall so that we can get at the firewall over there and get a cable through there. So we've decided to wait until we've got that done before we go smacking the engine in. We'll do that first. We feel like that's the smartest decision, is to do that first. So this is the pedal out of the ZD, and this is the setup that it runs, as you can see. Pretty convoluted, but yeah, pretty easy to tell. Electronic, all that jazz. That's the getup. So we're having a look at what we can do as a solution under there under the dash, and we just so happen to remember or realise that the last patrol we did, the GQ, we actually put a 6 litre in it, which is fly-by-wire. So we had to use a special pedal mount, use the pedal out of the donor car, you know, to get the fly-by-wire working. So it was all fly-by-wire. So we actually removed the cable throttle pedal out of that GQ to install that because it was just TB42 EFI. And we just happened to have the pedal floating around. It was literally just outside the door in the scrap pile. So we fished that out. It literally bolts directly in, and it's just a cable pedal. Simple as that. So all we got to do now, there's Rex celebrating. Always fun when things go right. Every now and then you've got to have a win. So all we've got to do now is find a solution for getting the cable through the firewall, and then the plan is just to pull the cable out of the VX, the donor car, adapt it to that pedal, straight onto the LS. We'll be in business. Easy as. Easy as that.
Yep, there she is. Right, what happened there, mate? Right there.
It's a hole in the firewall for a cable.
So
delicious. Anyway, guys, that's a big win, but we're going to worry about that tomorrow. We've done enough for today. Big enough day today. But yeah, we'll continue with this tomorrow. So that'll be the end of this episode, guys. Sorry for this content being pretty patchy. As you guys know, we sort of have cut it pretty fine as far as time goes for this thing, and we're trying not to leave everything to the last minute. So we're trying to smash through as much of it as we can ASAP, so that, you know, it's all done. Basically, at this stage, it will be going to wiring with no fuel system. Reason being is that I had actually planned for this car to use this for our fuel system. So this came from Roadrunner Off-Road, and what this is a seal ring to adapt a Commodore fuel pump assembly from a VX, VT, whatever have you. So this actually bolts into the top of the ZD tank. That's a new O-ring seal for the tank. And then this O-ring, you can actually just put a complete drop-in Commodore fuel pump hanger assembly into the ZD tank, and Bob's your auntie, it's that easy. So we've already got a heap of those Commodore pump hangers in the back room in stock, so I figured that was going to be a pretty easy solution for us to get out of this, and a pretty reliable solution as well, you know. But I had a chat to Sam before I was going to send this down. I asked him just for a bit of a list of what he wants us to check or make sure it's done before it goes, and that sort of thing, and talk to him about the wiring of doing that. The biggest problem he has with that is that the resistance in the fuel tank level sender are completely different. So it's it's not super complicated, but it's just more work that needs to be done to actually get it wired in so that it works on the dash properly for the fuel level. So, you know, he's basically, he wants us to get just a hanger from a TB model, like just a petrol model, which just have a generic, you know, fuel pump hanger, easy to just put an aftermarket fuel pump on it. It's the same resistance for the level, everything works, it just all plugs straight in. I was like, yeah, you know, that sort of makes sense. So we are onto one, I've got one on the way. But I don't think it's going to be here before it has to go to the wiring. So it just means that we'll have to finish the fuel system when it gets back from wiring, which is not a big deal. There's probably going to be a few other things we'll have to finish off before when it gets back from wiring as well. But most importantly is that it can go to wiring, get all the wiring done. When it comes back, it'll just be a matter of finish off the fuel system and a few final little touches and we'll be on the way, which would be awesome. So anyway, what I was getting at, sorry guys, is yeah, we're just smashing this out. We're under the pump a bit, and really what we've been going through is just the dummy fitting in and out. It's very repetitive. I've just been sort of trying to take you through what we found as we've gone through. But don't know if I told you about it, but we did, after the engine came back out, we moved that heat shield just down a little bit. Rex moved it down, so now it's going to be a little bit more out of the way for the pipe on that side. And this is how it's all going to stay and be, which is awesome. Anyway, as much as that stuff's not super exciting to watch and I didn't film heaps of it in this video, we are getting to the really good point of a conversion where after you've done all of that in and out and measuring twice and cutting once and getting all that sorted, you get to this point where we're at now where you get to start just putting everything together. And because you've already fitted it and test fitted it and dummy fitted it and moved everything and made it fit, it just all goes together, and your 2 days of preparation of dummy fitting and cutting and stuff turns into like 6 or 7 hours of just breezing through it and getting it all together, which is always exciting and fun. So anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope you've enjoyed. I'll try and sort of, now that we've got through a lot of the bulk of the work of the conversion, I'll try and sort of film a bit more in depth of us putting it together because, you know, I know we're not so much under the pump now that most of the hard work's done. So anyway, we'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to head to the merch shop, buy yourself some merch. These shirts came out awesome. Go into the draw, you win yourself a Pulsar GTX Gen 2 Turbo. Check it out, we've got a family of ducklings that have been nesting down in the gully. There's 8 ducklings, and there's been 8 ducklings for like 5 weeks now. There's still 8 of them, which is awesome. Look at them, ducky ducks. Anyway guys, like, comment, subscribe, all of that. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out. See you, bye.